Welcome back to Everything I've Never Said. I am Lakshita, and today I'm going to be low key and just talk about regular stuff we all go through, like growing up and change, and how scary it feels. Because, well, that is what I am going through at the moment, and that is how I feel at the moment, so it's only fair. Okay? So, I kind of graduated school recently. I mean, my finals, which is basically the biggest part, is still left, but ceremonially I have graduated school. Okay, I don't have to go to school 5 days a week anymore like I have my entire life. And because of that, the way my life and worldview has gone is insane. I think the thoughts that are now coming to my head have never come to my head before, even though they were always bound to. Fears about my future, something I never thought about. I mean, I did, but like now it's like all I think about. Okay, and I feel like not enough people are going into eerie detail about it. So I will. See, now it's not like school was ever something I particularly loved. For all I know, I've had a very complex relationship with academics stud since the day I started studying maybe. And was always fortunate enough to be good at academics. I was good enough. I would get by. But I've never liked the process, which is not a unique thing to me. Like, I can count the number of people in this whole world who like giving exams on my single hand, but I have also just never enjoyed how much time school takes from your day, from something you really want to do, and how much resources, energy, and time you have to put into it just to get by, barely, just to not have like a backlog. I have never liked that. But that's my opinion, and I'm not going to question this age old system we have put up over here, although it's not like I haven't before, and it's not like I never will again. But for now, okay? Even despite that, school overall for me was still a much better experience than I expected. Like, we know how bad stuff can go in places like schools, like, shit goes south, okay? And I, to a high degree, was very fortunate enough to not have to experience that. I mean, everybody has a bad friendship here and there. Everybody has like a bad grade moment, and I did too. But like, I am talking like I am sitting in therapy 5 years down the line talking about the stuff that happened to me in school kind of bad. Because I cannot expect to be in a place for 14 years or 16 years of my life and expect everything to be great. So I'm going to give it a bit of grace there and say that my overall school experience was actually okay. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, but it was good. It was fine. Okay. Now that that context is in place, I want to talk about how I feel about change. Because I could just remember that on my graduation day, I came back from school all tired, all weary, and I read this farewell letter that me and my friend wrote each other, and I sobbed. And you may think it was like, oh my god, I'm going to miss my friend so much kind of sobbing. I will, but no. It was more like, holy hell, the only thing I've ever been is a school student, and now I'm not one anymore. What if I don't get the things I want? What if I fail my life? What if nothing goes my way from here on? Existentialism kind of crying. Okay, because it's scary and nobody prepared me for this. So I'm hoping anybody who's about to go through huge changes and is listening to this is better prepared to deal with them so that you're not sobbing into your pillow at 4 p.m. on a random day. But I will say that the way I feel about change has transformed now more than it ever did because of how much change I know I have to endure in the next few months, which is to a degree that if I divide my life month wise into the next 6 months, no 2 months are going to be the same. It's the only good thing here is that I know that it is going to happen, so I have time to prepare myself for the plethora of things that are going to happen and how scary they're going to be. And everybody around me at the moment is also going through it, so it makes me feel less alone. Okay, I'm literally just talking about examinations and stuff, but yeah. Okay, I now view change as necessary to grow. And you may think that everybody always views change as necessary to grow. How is that a revelation? It is one to me, okay? I was, and to some extent still am petrified of change. But there have been certain realizations there that have taught me that change is important. And it can be uncomfortable, but it has to be done. Because in life, the more you get comfortable in your circumstances, the less likely you ever are to improve them or to even like set out on that path. And dissatisfaction is just kind of like requisite and wanting to change. I can't be unhappy with who I am or what I do or how I look without wanting it to change. Because for every unfavorable thing there is a second more favorable alternative, which I'm not saying is always feasible or is always ideal. But if you don't want to be a certain way, then there has to be a certain way that you want to be for that thing to exist. So I could be like, oh, I wish I was not pursuing tech, maybe. Well, then what else do I wish I was pursuing? That kind of thing. So if you're dissatisfied and if you have a an alternative that you would prefer, if there's something else you'd rather do or somehow else you'd rather be, but you don't want to change, then you're kind of putting yourself up to this risk of like dissonance where your own thoughts and ideas don't align with what your actions are. Like if you're like, I wish I was more energetic, but I'm spending my entire day being lethargic, I will mentally, physically, even maybe feel like something is out of order. And with school for a while there, I think this dissonance for me was very strong because I had very different goals than what my actions were. Like, what the obvious consequences of my actions would be was completely opposite of what I wanted to achieve. But I was too molded in my ways to change that because it was comfortable and it was easy and it was familiar, and even a bunch of people around me were the same way. So if it's not backfiring on them, if it's not bothering them, why should it bother me? Why should I try to change that? And also because there was a lot of fear in my head about just starting out on that journey of changing the way I live my life and the way I look at things and the way I approach projects and deadlines and examinations was just different, and it was not in my favor. It was working against me. So just starting out on that, for me, it became the hardest thing to get over, and it's something I'm still getting over. So the biggest thing I needed to understand maybe 6 months ago, if I could go back 6 months ago and tell my 6 month ago old self that, it was that a lack of wanting to change is going to cause me to become stagnant. And that will, and it did for a while, stop me growing. So I think the fear of how much work it actually is to change everything about your day, everything about your life is intense, but it's actually really not that hard. It's just starting out that is the hardest part. And this is very cliche, and this is something I've heard everybody say, but not until I actually set out to applying it in my life did I realize that I have actually never applied this in my life. So yeah, if you want to grow and if you want to move ahead, if you want to move on maybe from something, you will need to be dissatisfied. You will have to be uncomfortable in the way things are. It should bother you. Because if you're happy with how everything is going, then why should anything change? Maybe you feel like your day is too mundane. Maybe that makes you want to pick up a hobby. Maybe you feel like your day is too unhealthy in a way, emotionally, physically, however. If you do not feel that, if that dissonance is not there, then you're never going to want to change. And the worst thing about that is that it will cause you to become stagnant and you will never try to cope in a way. Anyway, next I want to talk about changing as a person. So, like morally, emotionally, that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, when you grow up, your worldview and your perception on things kind of changes. It develops, and as a consequence, the way you perceive things kind of shifts sometimes when you're developing morally, when your ideas are in a process of changing, and when a lot of these ideas change in a very short amount of time, you may find yourself with a whole new set of ideas about this world that could completely be incongruent with what you believed before. And this goes for your ideas, yes, but it goes for your morals, and most importantly, it goes for the people in your life. Now, these people could be your friends, it could be your family, it could be your significant others, it could be whoever. Because for me, changed more in this last year than I ever have in any 365-day period of my life. And this was something that evidently happened to me, okay? I would just find myself looking at people who were so important to me and just not having anything to say. And these people were individuals who were such a central part of my life. But in my head, for some reason, there was complete like silence. Suddenly, the things they do wouldn't sit right with me, or I wouldn't want to tell them stuff, and I just won't find the things they say amusing. And it was horrifying because I still cared for them so much. So it was Greek to me how this was happening, and how and from where did this randomly come from. And I'm not preaching moral superiority here or anything. I'm not being like I'm just so much better than these people that I think nothing they say is amusing anymore, or like I'm so mature and so enlightened. None of that shit. I don't even know myself what's been going on in my head this last year. But everything about me seems to be changing, and I don't even know if this is something everybody goes through. I have no idea. I am just navigating it the best I can with what I know, okay? So no judgment here. But yes, if I had to explain it in a line, I would say that it felt like there was a chain kind of connecting me to the people I cared about or enjoyed spending time with. And one day, out of the blue, this chain just broke. And not just for one person or two people, for several people. And all I felt around them was dissonance, so much of it. Now, obviously, if you're in the situation, you may ask yourself, what do we do when this happens to us? It's obviously not fair to leave certain people when they have been good to you and they did nothing, essentially, and you can't just leave them on the grounds of dissonance. But that's exactly what I thought. Then I asked myself, why, yes, you can. You know, I think what I needed to understand and I needed to learn in the time frame that I was experiencing this was that as a friend or as a significant other to anybody, it's not fair to the other person you love, you know, if they're putting in so much of their energy and effort into you and you're not happy with it, it's not just annoying for you to deal with, it's just as unfair to them, and it must be just as annoying to them. Because when you don't look at somebody in the same light as you did, then you are not able to be the best you can be to this person. And because suddenly you can't connect with them the same, you know, it's just as tantalizing to them. It's not just about your own distress, if equally it's more distressing to them. Because for them this may be completely unexplained. They might not even know these things are going on in your head, and everybody's losing. So you're not doing anybody a favor by trying to stay when every single whatever organ in your brain, I don't know, nerve in your brain is asking you not to. And even from the other person's perspective, they may be like, I did everything right, okay, I was an amazing friend, and this friendship still got sapped. Like, that's a fair viewpoint to have, but I feel like what I understood, thanks to Emma Chamberlain, is that people can want to leave you at any point. They may pause and say, this is it, you're not adding anything to my life anymore, and I don't want that, and I think we should go our own ways. Now, I could say that now, and my friends could say that a year down the line. Would that hurt to hear? Yes, of course. It would. It would probably, you know, fuck me up. But is there anything I can do about it? No, not really, not much. because this is their call. And if they think that I'm not a good addition anymore, I don't think they deserve to be spending all that time acting like I am. And this is the thing with change. It gives you a lot of stuff. Okay, it will satisfy you. Maybe switching a job will make you more money. Maybe changing partners will make you feel more loved. And if that does that, then that's great and you should definitely go for the change. But you need to understand and accept that in the process, it will rip you of familiarity. It will rip you of specific people. It will take your old self away from you. And when your worldview and morals kind of just do a whole 180 on you, you may just have to get up and leave. Because people will not always understand that. You may not always understand that yourself. And I'm not assuming that everything a person who's going through any sort of change in terms of their personality thinks is completely accurate and right and morally okay, because even in the grand scheme you could look back and be like, okay, wow, that was a stupid thing I did, but it still did get you here. It doesn't matter where you're going as long as you're not stagnant. You can always backtrack, you can always make amends, you can bury it. You can say, okay, I fucked up as a person back when I said that this is the case with our whatever friendship or relationship. The world is your oyster. You can always apologize. And no, that's not an excuse for hurting people. It's just that if you genuinely think that there is nothing about a person in your life that motivates you, or about a person in your life that makes you feel connected to them, then it's okay to leave. And you may realize down the line how stupid you were for doing that, but you're not stupid as long as you were feeling it in the moment. That was quite the tangent I went on. But my point here is that we all know that change can be scary and it's constant and there is no permanence in this life. But what we forget is that that is largely circumstantial. Yes, there is no permanence in your life. Of people, of places, absolutely not. But there is permanence of impact. Now, so even if I do get out of school and stop talking to every last friend I made here or person I liked, I will physically be in a different context, yes, but whatever ways they have impacted me, however less, will stay. So technically, a part of school is never going to leave you, a part of your old self is never going to leave you, your childhood best friend is never going to leave you, even if you don't know if they're alive today. So it's not just all strange and foreign. And when I understood that myself, it took so much of the stigma and fear in my mind surrounding change away from me, because I realized that yes, amidst all of this changing, there does exist stuff that I can hold on to. Next, I want to talk about growing up because, well, I am growing up and we all do. That's no reason, but because essentially, this is the last year of me legally not being an adult. Actually, scratch that. I turn 18 in the next few months, so this is not even the last year. This is the year I'll stop being a kid legally. That's crazy. See, you may go like, what the hell does it matter? Turning 18 doesn't change anything, and I know that. I know nothing is going to change about my life from the day on the last day of me being 17 to the first day of me being 18. I'm going to be the exact same person. But ceremonially, it's important. Turning 18 is a big deal. Even if you're still living with your parents and worrying about college, it's a big deal, okay? With growing up too, to nobody's surprise, I've had always just kind of had this odd relationship. I don't think there's anything at this point that I haven't had a weird relationship with. But yes, I don't know how I feel about growing up, mainly because it's so deceptive. Ever since I was a kid, I have wanted to be all grown and independent, and the closer I get to it, I'm just like, oh hell nah. Like, what is this stuff I have to deal with? While simultaneously, I still want to grow up because I'm convinced that, I've convinced myself that being in your 20s is fun, despite every person who has either gone through 20s or is going through 20s has been telling me that the opposite is true. I will stay delusional because it works. It's my only way out. But yeah, growing up undoubtedly it can bring up a lot of feelings that are not fun, and there will always be voices in your head that tell you that you're too behind, and that is probably because you are. No, no, I'm kidding. Getting older kind of opens you up to, quote unquote, the world, as they all say. And it's really the first time you have to come face to face with the person you just spent the last 18 years becoming. And there's a chance you may not like them. But honestly, if it helps, I think the expectation to love yourself is very unfair, because at a time where you're newly exposed to the shit show of becoming an adult, to put it simply, you can't love yourself when everything you ever believed in and were used to is falling apart in front of your eyes. That's the last thing you can do. Because, being a kid, it comes with a lot of comfort. Everything is kind of taken care of for you, and there's very less things that you yourself have to do. However, when you grow up, you're obviously kind of expected to do a lot of unfamiliar shit that you've never done before, like taxes, bills, a job. And you may suck at it, okay? And that is okay. Everybody does it first. That's at least what I tell myself. I've never been an adult right as of now, so I cannot say anything for sure. But everybody does it first, okay? The best you can do at this point, realistically, is just be okay with yourself and who you are. Just understand that this version of you is not your final draft. What am I saying? But yes, me personally, I don't think I'll be my biggest fan at 20 years old. And the expectation to be that is insane to me. I don't think anybody has ever been their biggest fan at 20 years old. But as long as I'm not my biggest critique, it is okay. I don't even know. Anyway, enough of me rambling about that. After talking so much about change, I'm just gonna sneakily tell you that everything I've never said is changing too. Because when we first made this podcast, I thought I would come on here and spend hours a week talking about my emotions and every bad thing that has ever happened to me. But as soon as I came to realize that my social apprehension and fear of judgment will not allow me to do so, I decided it's time for things to change. Everything is about this podcast. See, it was designed keeping the earlier theme in mind. Now, after nearly 2 years and exactly 10 episodes in, I want to switch things up. And the next episode onwards, whenever that will be, because I'm not consistent and I'm almost always busy, everything I've never said will have a different logo. The signature pink is getting on my nerves, so that will go too. And overall, this podcast will be a lot more commentary and research oriented than before. And it's simply what I want to make, and so it will be what I make, because I have no contractual obligation to do anything else but what I want to do. So I hope you enjoy the new version as much as you claim to have liked this one. And yes, anyway, so that is it for today. Thank you so much for listening. And just remember that if you're scared of how quickly and how much stuff is changing around you and whether you will get by, sail through, just remind yourself that you will be fine. Because you're not the first person in this world to turn 18, to turn 20, to go to college, to look for a job, to get rejected on a job. I don't know. And you won't be the last either. And if I can figure it out, if people much dumber than you can figure it out, don't tell them I said that. That anybody can, and you definitely can. Hope you liked this episode. I will see you soon in a completely different light. Bye.